Power Breakfast with Tessa Dooms, weekdays 6 to 9 a.m.
Your time is 6:23. You're on Power Breakfast with Tessa Dooms this morning. South Sudan has seen escalating conflicts over the last few months. And over the last few years, really, there's been a sustained conflict in the region and in that country with very, very few lights at the end of the tunnel in terms of a peace agreement being reached. In the crossfire, there are aid workers and people who are trying to help the citizens of that country. The organization Doctors Without Borders is one of those organizations that has been based in South Sudan in order to run a hospital there that has now been bombed. And so casualties, literal casualties of war as we look at that story. On the line with us now, we have Abdallah Hassan, the spokesperson in East Africa for Doctors Without Borders that covers Sudan. Abdallah, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Welcome to Power Breakfast.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you so much. Just for the sake of our listeners, give us the context in which Doctors Without Borders finds itself working in South Sudan.
Well, Doctors Without Borders was working in South Sudan for a long time now, almost 40 years. And we have been providing medical assistance in different periods, including the last civil war and as well in the last period of the tension in the current tension.
And so you've been providing health services, but running a hospital there for what period of time?
Well, there are different programs that have been in place for different times. At the moment, for the project of Al Fangak, which is the one that has been impacted by the incident we had on the 3rd of May, It has been in place since 2014.
And so your statement reports that this attack began, as you said last week, at about 4:30 in the morning. Tell us what actually transpired and what has been the impact on the hospital infrastructure and lives lost.
So basically, we have a hospital, a field hospital kind of, in a remote area in Al Fangak. The hospital was a normal morning for the patients and the staff, and we have had 17 patients at that time that were in the wards. We have a large number of national staff, but of course not all of them were in the hospital at that moment.
Yeah.
The pharmacy is part of the hospital. We have a pharmacy where we keep the drugs. And there's these helicopters that arrived, and the first fire that they did was on the pharmacy, the medical store, and it caught fire, and they continued to also bombard the city. But city is, it's a township. And so part of the town is very close to the hospital perimeter. So the shrapnels or fragments of objects were arrived inside the hospital, and we had one patient and two caretakers, one of them our staff, that were wounded.
Sure. And so the loss of life there, you're estimating about 7 deaths at this point, confirmed, but many more are wounded there. So quite a big incident, from your part. But this stems from a general lack of peace and stability in the country. The president there, President Kerr, and the first vice president, President Macha, have not been upholding a power sharing agreement there quite well, and those tensions do not seem to be going away. But it does seem to come from your side that you do not think that this was an accidental attack on your hospital. What gives you that sense? We know that aid facilities are generally and civilian facilities are generally not seen as part of active conflict. Do you believe this was a targeted attack?
Well, we suspect that it was a targeted attack because normally Médecins Sans Frontières is always in contact with all warring parties or people that bear guns. And and we provided recently the GPS coordinates of all our facilities in the country to all the parties, with the intention that they will know that the hospitals of MSF are in these locations, and that they have to spare with any impact. So that was one reason that we think it was not accidental. And the other thing is normally our facilities are well marked with the Doctors Without Borders emblem, so it's quite identifiable from the air, and basically. So basically the hospital was quite clearly identified. That's why we think it was not accidental, and of course, you know, the warring parties have a responsibility to do prudence and check of the civilian facilities, and in any case, bombarding a city out full of civilians is not an acceptable thing in international humanitarian law.
Yeah, I mean, that should be something for great concern, both for, the region, but also by just general international standards. What's the next move for Doctors Without Borders now in this country? Is there a plan to continue providing those services? Is there an exit that is required? What happens next?
Well, we have already many programs in the country. So this Orphan Gag was only one of the projects of MSF in South Sudan, and we do not intend at the moment to leave the place. Just for your viewers to have a big image of what it was like, after that strike, is that right after we had a wounded coming to the hospital that was bombarded itself. So we had 20 wounded.
Of course.
Some died, some patients died afterwards, but at least 20 wounded that were alive, that our teams, after they were bombarded, had to care for. Yeah. And we were transferring those patients the day after to remote location to sleep with them. And yesterday we were able to transfer those patients for care. Some of them needing immediate surgical intervention. So, and there is a displacement of population of the town that are on flight, including our staff from the local area. Yeah. And so the idea is that we will follow and see what we can do for that population, but we need guarantees from the warring parties to respect the humanitarian personnel and civilian lives.
No, absolutely. A commitment there to continue serving even in the midst of being caught up in that conflict. Thank you so much, Abdullah Hassan, spokesperson for Doctors Without Borders, for that update on the bombing in South Sudan. It's now 6:30, time for the news.